to me, it's going to be about building the right list of names to trade.
Yeah.
So finding something that I'm comfortable with, that's liquid enough, that, had a really, I would say, last year, some of the moves that were made were insane, up
Yeah.
500 to 1,000%.
Welcome back, everybody, to Be the Trader. Today, I have a very special guest, a return guest who is here when probably none of y'all knew what Be the Trader was. So I'm so thankful to bring him back. He was so happy. He was actually really open to jumping on my show when no one really knew what my show was about. So I'm so thankful for that as well. But today I have Alex, aka Tagger Trades, which you might know on Twitter, a long bias trader. And if you want to know his story, you got to go back. I mean, you got to go way back to the beginning of Be the Trader, because he was on there and he shares his whole entire story. Today, we're just going to go into where he's at right now and going forward. So Alex, hey, welcome back to the show, brother.
Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, man. So it's been a long time since you and I even really dove into things. So, tell me how things have been. And, I think the last time we talked was right before COVID, probably.
Yeah, I think it was like the end of 2019 when everything was looking good.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, it's been a while. I mean, man, it's been crazy. I feel like a lot's happened. I guess the whole global pandemic. I don't know if you remember, I got in a pretty bad car accident. We were T-boned by an 18-wheeler right during COVID, right when it broke out. So we were in a weird place for a while now, and it feels kind of like we're, we got vaccinated and now everyone's feeling good and we're ready to live life again.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot about that. Like I remember I text you whenever I saw you post it. That was like right at the beginning of COVID too, right?
Yeah, that was like when they were building triage units at hospitals. Nobody knew what the hell was going on. We couldn't get anybody to help, like any nurses to come back to the house to help us. It was wild.
Through that tragedy, there was a blessing though, right? Like no one in your family got hurt.
No, we were all fine. I mean, my son he was at the time was like probably like a year and a half, took a direct shot from the 18-wheeler in the car and not a scratch on him. My wife, she was in between the two car seats and got pinned and broke her acetabulum, her hip, her sacrum, like everything. But she's mostly better now, so we're in a good place.
Man, thank you. Like that's ridiculous. Yeah. I couldn't even imagine. I would have been terrified. So, I want to know, after that you started trading again. You kind of eased back in, right? You weren't trading right away at first. I remember you were taking kind of a break.
So actually, I remember starting off in 2020. 19 was an awesome year. It was a great year. Starting of 2020, I remember, specifically like I have Benzinga Pro and the Squawk on there. And, all these news things kept coming in, like beginning of, I don't say it's March or end of February, where it was like, Facebook's closing down their conferences and, conferences are getting canceled. And this whole COVID thing's popping up. And I remember talking to my wife and being like, look, this may be a lean year. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on. Like, no one knows what's going on. It's weird. The last time I felt this weird was Ebola. This feels like something weird's going on. I had no fortitude to short the market or anything like that, but it was weird. And then of course it turned out to be something. And, then the accident happened. And so, I remember kind of watching the markets while we were in the hospital, not trading at all, just kind of like keeping an eye on things, what was going on. Got to the hospital, couldn't trade much. But I remember I started kind of running scans like 2 weeks after I got out of the hospital. I was just like, this is weird. Like the world feels like it's a really bad place, but there are tons of good chart setups. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like my mind was bearish. Like I was full on thought the world was going to implode, but all these good setups were happening. And we were just being like, I feel like I can place maybe 1 or 2 trades a day. And then it just got to be so active that I just moved all my computers in the room with my wife, all my screens. And I was like, honey, I'm going to take care of you, but at the same time, I'm going to trade too, because this is it's crazy. I mean, I'm sure 2020 was probably the best year for most people. And it was totally unexpected. And I think that's probably why it was such a good year. It caught everybody off guard. So,
speaking of that, you came in with a bear mindset. And I want to talk about that, because how long did it take you to actually flip and be like, you know what, I'm going to start taking all these? Like, did you jump in right away with regular size, or did you kind of like dabble a little bit? Give me an idea of where you were at before you actually flipped to more bullish.
Yeah. So I remember specifically, I remember trading some of the names were like Party City and these like really weird companies that should have been slaughtered, like Hertz, whenever they were going through their bankruptcy stuff. And just seeing all these companies that are I'm just in my head should have been dead, but they were doing they were just going up. So I wasn't sizing big at the time. I was working on a plastic desk in my bedroom, taking care of my wife. but it was just like trades. It was almost like you couldn't miss. It was just the weird, you throw a dart at some like name that seems like it's crappy and it was going to go up. And it was just the weirdest thing. So, like April, May, it was light trading, but a good months overall. And then come like June, July, whenever it finally like got back into my office, my wife's doing better. I just kind of put my foot down as hard as I could. Not, again, it was just the charts that were telling me, like, I was still like, this is weird. I see people that are hurting out there and it sounds terrible, but the market was just squeezing. Like, it was crazy. I think a lot of people got caught off guard. We're betting the short side. The only thing I did right was not do that. And I just went on for the ride.
Interesting. And and for everyone who doesn't know, Alex really focuses on the long side. And are you still that way? Do you do
will I be in the next couple of months? I don't know. The market kind of feels like it feels eerie. I said this last March, around this time last year, and was the best year ever. So, yes, right. Going into this year, I was like 98% on the long side, and I still am, but I'm entertaining the fact that I might need to open the doors a little bit.
And now,
but I've been saying that forever. So who knows?
So let's just say, let's dive into that for a second, though. Like, if you decided to open the doors now, what does that look like for you? And what's your process for that?
Yeah. So basically what I've done is so it was a great 2020 coming into this year, January, February were insane. I feel like it was just kind of that, everybody I knew who I talked to was trading. Like it was everyone stuck at home. Sports betting was off. Everyone was trading, and it kind of felt like the party was never going to end. And then, you kind of say, well, everyone thinks we're in a bubble. It's probably not a bubble. And I'm still not sure it is. But now at this point, you're kind of going, everyone's like, well, this is harder than I thought it was. This sucks. Nobody's really, everyone's kind of moved on. So I created a list of all the companies that did absolutely crazily well during that time that people were going bananas about. And now those are the ones that no one seems to be interested anymore. And those are going to be like the short targets, but they're the more liquid names. Like I'm looking at some of them, not any smaller cap ones, but like Peloton, any of the pot stocks that went crazy last year, any of the, big tech ones, not Apple, Facebook, but those ones would be my targets primarily.
Nice. And for everyone who's listening, today's May 18th, 2021, just in case you're curious on what day it is today. At the end of the day, a lot of the information we're going to talk about is useful no matter what time period we're in. But just in case you're like wondering when we're talking,
right?
Yeah, I'm wondering. You never really attack short, or do you have some extensive experience shorting?
I mean, I've opened up so many brokerage accounts with shorts and lasted like a month and just been like, it's not my thing. So it's never been more than I would say 5% of my profits ever. But I mean, I get the idea. I know it's profitable. I know it can be done. I've just kind of kept my blinders on to the long side because the market's rewarded me for the time being. Right now, I mean, it could change, but right now it's just not being rewarded currently.
Gotcha. If it did change, how would you attack the short side in terms of I'm just very curious from a long bias trader who mainly longs, but you're open to shorting. What would you do? How would you take that path?
Yeah. So again, to me, it's going to be about building the right list of names to trade. So finding something that I'm comfortable with, that's liquid enough, that, had a really, I would say, phenomenal, last year, some of the moves that were made were insane, up 500 to 1,000%. Those ones, as I just kind of feel like the natural weight will kind of start pulling them lower at some point. And maybe, again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this all fixed itself by the end of the summer and we have a choppy summer. Again, we were kind of spoiled last summer, right? Like, in the 8 years I've been doing this, I've never seen anything like that. So we could just chop around and then go, resume as normal at the end of the summer. I have no idea, but I would be targeting the names that had a really good year last year that kind of fallen out of favor and assume that there's going to be that natural pull lower.
I guess what I was trying to say more specifically, because you're right. I did ask that question. You answered it pretty much the same way. So I appreciate that. But what I was trying to say is like, how would it be like? It sounds like that's more of like a swing short strategy. It's from just listening to you. Am I hearing that wrong?
Well, it could be. The thing with, shorting for me is just those bear market rallies or the squeezes that happen are vicious. So for more than likely to be intraday, trying to basically do what I did on the long side. On the reverse side, I love the gap down days where you buy the, strong ending gaps down, red to green, blah, blah, blah. Everyone talks about it, but it's bread and butter and it's there and it's usually there. So it'd be reversed. Whereas where the market gaps open and you look for the names that are the strongest, but should be the weakest, and then just go from there. I mean, just essentially just reversing the idea. But for the longest time, in my opinion, the market was telling me, be long. That's where it's being rewarded. If it starts saying that's not where you're going to be rewarded, just got to be open to changing.
So let's talk about that first. Let's focus more on the long side because I know that's your forte. In terms of the stocks that gap down, that may look weak, I know that's your bread and butter, and that's something that you really like to trade. Why do you think that works? I mean, because a lot of people will see something gapping down, they're thinking it's a short, right? So I'm just very curious on why you think that works, and how are you comfortable buying something that's just kind of, I guess I don't know the specific setup, but more of, like, for a better term, panicking.
Yeah. So like last year, I think the name of the game was themes. A lot of the stuff we saw was like solar was crazy. Bitcoin was crazy. Anything clean energy towards the end of last year, beginning this year. So if if there's a group of 5 names and one of them gaps down, but the other 4 are strong, to me, that's just, that gives me the confidence to say, well, this one's going to play catch up. Now, there's also the reverse side where you find the leader and go after the leader, you type the leader, but there's 10 ways to do the same thing. It's just, how you feel more comfortable where your confidence is. So that was kind of my thing, finding the right names. And again, it goes back to trading the right names, the right volume, the right scenarios, the right market, the right sector. All that stuff would give me the confidence. And last year was just, it was almost too easy, to be quite honest. And looking back in retrospect, you go, oh, I should have done 10 times everything. But you never know when you're there. You always, wonder when it's going to end. So.
And speaking of last year being the best year for a lot of traders, and you mentioned that earlier, that a lot of said that, even newer traders. And then this year they're saying like, oh man, it's not as easy as I thought it was. What do you think is going to be the biggest challenge for a lot of those traders who might have made really good money for their first year, and now it's 2021, the market looks hella different?
Right. Patience wasn't rewarded before. It was like I got paid to be at my desk as much as I could. And if let's say I missed or I lost on 3 trades, the market kept saying, come back because the next one's going to be big. Next one's going to be big. So you're rewarded to trade a lot. Well, now, at least for me personally, it's not that way. It's more about being more selective. I mean, hell, there's been last week, I rarely even traded. I spent a lot of time away from the desk, waiting for that, the right opportunities, the right pitches, it's so easy to say looking back. I've done this long enough. And again, my career's short. It'll be 8 years next month, full time, but it's still short. But I can't imagine taking a step back in a summer when I was starting, because I was learning so much. I wanted to be active. I wanted to go. And I also understand that, I had the benefit of having a couple of really good years where I built my bankroll up. I can kind of have that sitting power. I think for the average person who hears, just sit back, relax, be patient. It's freaking hard whenever you got your back to the fence and your counts maybe getting below the PDT or getting closer. There's just a lot of emotions that go into a market like this where you could shop around. And sometimes that's the worst market, to be honest, versus going down too much or up too much. It's that chop that just, I mean, the paper cuts suck.
Yeah, they do.
They suck.
It's just frustrating because like things they like kind of work, but not really. It's just a frustrating market right now. Right. I'm very curious on, since you said it's been kind of that way for yourself in terms of just not the best market for you. When you're being extra selective, I mean, does that mean, what do you mean by that? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. So here's the thing that sucks right now. So typically, like I said in the past, if I could have a couple of losing trades, it was still beneficial for me to keep trading because the probabilities are on my side. One good trade could wipe out, 5 bad trades. And that's kind of how it was working. Well, now it's almost like that risk reward is kind of skewed to where I don't have a lot. Even if I'm going to hit a winning trade, there's just not like a lot of just massive wins I'm seeing out there. And like, even the trades that I missed that I go, oh, it sucks, I should have been in that, it triggered. I look at it and realistically I go, here's what I could have put in there. Here's what it still wouldn't have paid that much. Right. Like, so I'm taking a lot of these paper cuts and I don't have that flip side trade that makes it worth, all those cuts. So it's challenging to be patient, but back into the before, I never really had a timeout phase where like, if I had a couple of red days in a row, I was still going to come back. I had my first five-day red streak that I've had as long as I can remember, at least 4 years, probably since 2016. And I just say, look, something's changed. I don't know what it is. I mean, I can clearly feel it. The markets are still, this is like, the beginning in March when SPY was near high and QQQs were near high, but my stocks weren't going. So I just had to say, the market's telling me something and I got to back off. And I don't feel like I missed much.
What'd you do after that? Like you said that, did you do anything different within following weeks? Did you downsize? Did you trade less because you were more strict? Like, I'm only going to trade X now. Like, what'd you do? I'm trying to understand the process of someone who has a lot more experience. For a lot of traders out there who may be new and they're struggling, I want to know what you're doing now, even though, because you have consistency. Now you're trying to make some adjustments through a harder time, if you will.
Right. So I would say it was the end of March that 5-day red streak hit. The following week, to be quite honest, I busted for like the last 8 years working really hard. The following week, I might have played a lot of video games and just said like, look, I'm going to be by my computer. I did it in my office so I could see what was going on. If there's anything that's just like so pressing, I'll come to market. I didn't see anything. Like there was pops, but pops, I needed continuation. I need good charts. I need good dailies. And I was running my scans and I didn't see anything. So I was here in case something did happen, but it was basically a whole week where there just wasn't anything for me to see. So, I gave myself that slack for the week. And then, so what I'm doing now is going back, pulling back all the best trades, and I'm starting to do some homework and prepare for, when things do improve, if things do improve. And I'm also kind of dabbling in the short side, picking a couple names and getting small and testing it with like a 20th of the size. Any trades that I'm taking right now on the long side are also 20th of the size until the market starts telling me, okay, you're right again. Go to 10th, go to 5th, get full size again. But the market's going to tell me what to do. It doesn't, I can't force myself on it. I could work 10 times harder and it doesn't matter. If there's nothing for it to give me, I can't take it.
But what if you take a trade, okay, Alex, and you're 20th of your size long, and then it freaking rockets, and you're just like, oh, I should have been in full size.
I know, it just is what it is, man. Because because it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. Like I've had good trades, I've had decent trades, and they're okay. But getting a string of 4 in a row has not happened. I mean, it'll be some give, some take, a good one. I have small size, but there's also the trades that I'm not full, that I'm 20 the size, and it tanks. I'm going to go, thank God I wasn't in full size. So I mean, you have to look at it both sides. Yep. But you have to look at the last 100 trades, because looking at the last 3 isn't going to give you the best. And I'm just not seeing it right now. And it doesn't mean there aren't people out there that are probably doing well, and I'm sure there are. And everyone has their markets, and I'll eventually adapt. But right now, just being realistic, the feedback I'm getting from the market is just cool it, dude.
I love that. I love that you said you downsized, and even on the setups that you trade regularly, just to kind of wait for the market to say, hey, Alex, you know what? It's time to start to size up, because you start to see consistency again with that one setup or whatever it may be, because that's something you don't hear often, or I don't really hear often with your regular setup, maybe with something new, maybe with something that you're trying, but that's very interesting. So I'm glad you do that. I'm glad you share that. So thanks for saying that, man.
Yeah, I mean, this is, like I said, this is the stuff that I have data on that says my probabilities were extremely high for all these trades. Well, they're not right now. And it's not that I'm executing poorly. I can go back and look at it. It is just literally the conditions have changed temporarily, and there's nothing you can do.
And you said also something about you'll look at trades that maybe during the slow time or choppy time that may have worked. Maybe they worked and you weren't in it, and you'll be a little bit aggravated at first, but then you'll analyze it. Explain what you mean by analyzing and realizing, you know what, it really wasn't that great. Right.
Because you can't look at a trade and say, well, okay, 3 months ago, I would have had 20,000 shares. And imagine, well, this trade didn't qualify for 20,000 shares because we're not in the 20,000 share market. We're in the 2,000 or 1,000 share market, right? So I can't look at those numbers that way, or else it'll drive me freaking crazy. So I say, okay, look, if I was going to put the amount of risk on that I'm willing to put on right now, what would the trade have looked like? It would have yielded something, but then the market rolled over, and would I have stopped out? I probably would have had some on. You have to be real with yourself when you go back and look at this. Not like the picture perfect. Let me screenshot it. If I bought right here, if I sold right, I mean, because that's not real, right? You got to look at it like what your system says. And if I'm following my system to the T, I'm not yielding the huge returns right now anywhere. Even on the short side, when I take a picture or I'm looking at some of the stuff, I go, well, that's great. But then these reversals are vicious intraday too. The volatility is up, and it is what it is. And I just need some sitting power right now.
Speaking of the idea of I follow like when you look at a trade in hindsight and you're saying not perfect, but more of how you would have traded with your system or the way your process tells you. Can you talk about when it comes to your trading and when it comes to longing, taking profits, holding for stops, so forth? Are you very strict? Are you very both ways, like strict and then loose? Like, give us an idea of how you go about either taking profits as well as taking losses.
Yeah, so I was pretty loose last year and rewarded for it. And it goes back to the, things have changed and you got to be able to tighten up. So, I didn't stop out as quick last year. If I took a breakout and it failed, I might have given it time and maybe even doubled up on size on a retry and gone or something like that. I got smoked a couple of times doing that this year. Just, just knowing that things have changed. So I've got to I've got to tighten things up. So yes, my sales have gotten shorter, which again goes back to the risk reward profiles change because I'm not looking at these, 5 to 1, 10 to 1 odds right now. I'm like 2 to 1, 3 to 1 is the best I can personally find. And so that makes things harder. And with the stops, if you're not fast, one big one, that sucks. You're digging out of a hole and I don't want to dig out of a hole right now. So it's just a lot of freaking stop outs, a lot of tightness, a lot of things that I go, I stop out and then maybe it goes higher, but at the same time, a lot of times that you looked at it, it's, oh, thank God I stopped out because I would have wiped out, a lot. So yeah.
It really seems like the market is, like you said, for both short and long, where it's like, you got to like lock it in quick or it's just choppy. We're in ranges. It just feels like it's constantly in like everyone's a winner and a loser,
right.
It's crazy.
And some people might do well at this and they might thrive and some people won't. And what I'm thinking, the way my mindset was when I took a little time off, I played some golf with some buddies and had some time outside. And then I thought, okay, look, I can sit at my desk all summer and, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, maybe get a nice win, maybe get a little loss, or I can wait, which isn't sexy. And I can wait till I get another phenomenal year, another 6-month run, another 12-month run. The number that I did last year, if I can do that, if I can beat that 2 more times in my lifetime, I'll be a happy camper, right? So it's just about waiting to that perfect time. It doesn't take a lot of time or many great markets. You just need a couple good runs. And if you're there and you're pushing yourself hard and you're getting better than you were last time, which it's all about getting a little better, then sometimes you just have to wait.
So you feel like this market is best to just really sit back and how do you know that if you are sitting back to wait to it's like, okay, it's time. Like, cause if you're not trading, how would you kind of get a feel of like, all right, I got to get back in this?
The setups, just like how at the end of last year or this time last year, when I felt terribly bearish, but I would pull up. There would be so many good setups and it's just like, there's so many lower, just everything. There's everywhere. Hundreds of things would come up and I'd be like, this is just weird. This doesn't feel right. The market was saying it's time, even though my eyes did not feel like it was time. Well, right now it's the opposite. Like it feels like the market's right high and I'm running my scans and I'm just like, there is nothing that is telling me I have to buy this right now. I have to be here. And if that changes and all of a sudden I'm running my scans and I go, holy crap, there's a lot of good stuff right now. That's when it's time. It'll tell me.
Yeah, I gotcha. And I'm very curious. It's kind of off the wall question here, but I want to know, because you have buddies, of course, and you've been trading for 8 years full time. So do you ever have buddies of yours who are close to you, like real close friends, who wanted to learn and you try to teach them? And was there anybody who kind of did it well, or maybe they just didn't? And is there any reason why? You have to name anyone. I'm just curious.
Yeah, no. So basically, going into like last year, it felt like I was getting texts like on a daily basis from guys that were trading, right? And some of them, I remember like a couple of the guys got in some of the early like lithium ion stuff that just went crazy. I was like, hey, look, I'm not telling you it's beginner's luck, but it's beginner's luck. And so, we've all been there. And, I tried to give some of them tips, helpful, but it's just so hard because it's like, they want me to tell them like to buy or sell. And I'm like, I'm not going to tell you to buy or sell because if I tell you to, I did have a cousin who swears I told him to buy Tesla. Never told him to buy Tesla, but he's made a lot of money on it. He's so thankful for it. I'm like, I really don't think I ever told you to buy Tesla. But people who have a lot of gains too, I'm hearing stories playing golf with a guy who is in Dogecoin and has a ton of unrealized gains. I'm like, man, I don't know what to tell you. I would say sell some, but maybe you're going to look at me like I'm an idiot. As far as guys that have done really well, pretty much everyone that I know that did well has not texted me or asked me about it. Doesn't bring up in conversations. So be as that it may, and this is personal friends. Now, I know some guys on the internet that are, that I've met online that are doing well, but I don't know anybody who's like crushing it right now. Pretty much everyone I know had a good year last year though.
But well, talk about the whole idea, because you mentioned something just a while ago when sometimes like maybe you want to give them some advice, but they just may not take it because it's working right now. What was working then is just buy and just hold anything. Can you talk about that whole idea of like people, it's how hard it is to get rid of the wrong lesson when you make money? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm trying to say, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, like I was rewarded last year for being a little sloppy. Everyone
but you've been
was
trading
rewarded
for like 8 years though, so you kind of know that.
Right. But I was also rewarded for it, and I didn't turn it off fast enough, and I could have turned it off faster. Well, some people just won't ever know to turn that off, unfortunately. Or, trades turn into investments, which is kind of the thing that I'm hearing right now. A lot of like friends got on the SPAC stuff, and they're like, well, I'm going to hold on to it. I'm a long-term believer. Okay. So yeah, it's tricky. I mean, it's all about the emotional side of it all. And it's telling anybody there's no right or wrong answer. So it's tricky.
Yeah. Would you say, is there anything that you hear that kind of makes you cringe that would be like, ooh, you might not want to,
It's like, I heard that it's nearly impossible to lose an SPACs there for a while. And that was, I'm never going to tell anybody they're wrong. I will never tell somebody they're wrong. But when I start hearing stuff like that, you can't lose in that stuff, or everyone's telling me the SPAC they're in, or why am I not in it? And I'm like, because I'll trade it, but I'm not gonna hold it. So yeah, I mean, that it's just cringy when people get to a point where they think that you really can't lose on something, which I think was in a lot of people's mindsets last year.
Yeah, so. No, for sure. And I'm curious though, what's your now that you had a great year in 2021, right? 2020, sorry. And now we're in 2021. It's a little slow right now. You're kind of putting the brakes on. Do you have like a goal to beat 2020 by next year? Like, is that in your head at all? Or where are you at in that kind of realm?
Yeah, that's a good question. So talking with people that are actually trying to make a career out of it, trying to kind of help them through the process. It's like, it's challenging because, I had all these numbers in my head. Of course, don't we all? You look at the numbers last year and you think, okay, I'm going to beat that by, 30%. Oh, how sweet would that be? You start, the year starts off good. You have one bad month. Like, oh, it's not a big deal. I'm just going to get it next month. And then you're just like, oh, I'm lagging pretty hard now to get to the number that I started the year thinking maybe I could get to. If I stick with that number in my head all year, I'm going to drive myself freaking crazy, because it's unless things at the end of the year get really crazy, it's just not going to happen. And that's okay. I got to change that. The only thing I can say is when things start setting up again, I know that if I get a year, I can beat 2020 if that happens again. But the market, I can't force something on the market. I can't make things. So I can't say 2021 or 2022 are going to be my best year ever. If they're setups and it's awesome, I will make it my best year ever. But maybe, I hate to say it, but what if, man? Like, what if we chopped around for 2 years? Is that the craziest thing ever? No, it sucks, but it is what it is. I mean, it's the game. That's what we signed up for. Yeah. So as far as goals go, I have to take off the monetary goals in the monthly part right now. Probably sometime this summer, I'll come in and just pretend like I'm starting all over again. Let's try to get to, just a small profit every day, start small, build up again, and see if we can take it. And maybe I'll just be stuck at like a smaller level for a few months, maybe 6 months, a year. I don't know. And then hopefully at some point I can just turn the switch.
I'm curious, how long did it take you to be so comfortable to be able to, downsize a 20th of your size or a 10th of your size? Like, was that something that was automatic for you when you first started trading, when you were struggling?
Definitely not. No, not at all. I mean, now it has to do with all, like I kind of said before, and it's kind of unfortunate, but the things that you hear, the sayings, are harder when you're starting, because you don't know, am I going to be able to take advantage of the situation when things come around? And is it worth being patient for? Am I being too patient? You just don't know all these things. You haven't seen the conditions. You haven't been tested. I'm just confident that when things turn, I can turn it back on. But I mean, right now, just knowing that this is where I could cause damage to myself, and I don't want to be in a hole. So yeah, I guess it's the experience of seeing what can happen at a time like this, where you try to say, well, last summer was so great, this summer should be too. can't control that.
Yeah, I like what you said, because now you have the experience of seeing when things turn on and turn off because you've done it for years. Whereas a new trader, maybe 1 year in, they're like, am I being too patient? Like I'm missing out on plays. And maybe they start it right now, like maybe they start in 2021 and things are like, I haven't done a trade. So that's a good point. So any advice for those traders who are just maybe started in 2021 and maybe they have one setup and they're just like, holy crap, like nothing's really working?
Yeah. I mean, okay. So I grinded my ass off when I got started. If it were my, second or third year, I'd probably be working through this whole summer trying to find something that worked. I'd be trying really, really hard. And I'm not saying that's wrong, because I might take the summer off a little bit and relax, but I've also put in a lot of the work. If I was a new guy and it was me, I would go back and take a look at what worked for me last year. Like literally I'm all weird about screenshots and, journaling, this and that, but take a look at what worked for you really well last year and either get better at it, even if the market's not letting you, not seeing the setups, but try to figure out what you can do when things get better to attack. And if the one setup isn't working, I would continue to look for something else if you want to adapt and grind, which is probably what the new guy should do. I would say try to find something else. Try to find something else that's going to work in this market. It's going to give you some cash flow, give you the confidence that when things turn around, you can get aggressive. But it's tricky. And anybody who's out there who wants to give it a shot, hey, if you can make it through a long stretch, it makes you better. It really does.
What do you say to the people who may be trading through this stretch of like choppiness? Maybe they're experiencing, but they're just breaking even, every day. Would you consider that good, or would you consider that like a waste of your, like, how would you, I'm just curious, like,
yeah. So I think there's an edge sometimes of being a full-time trader, because I can be at the screens all the time and I can watch everything. And sometimes there's an edge where you're a part-time trader and you have an income coming in, you have a job, and you can say, look, maybe I need to focus on my job this summer, and instead of focusing on trading and, bust there and then come back, that is an edge. You don't have that emotion. You don't need that paycheck. If you are full-time and you're going through a rough stretch, then it's a whole different mentality how you're going to look at it.
Yeah.
So it's tough. If it were me and I was a part-time trader, I would still be working on it, but I wouldn't stress myself out to like find something, because you have that the income coming in. If you're full-time, hey, we've all been there. We've all had a tough time. You're going to have to work it out and find something that's going to work. And, it's going to be smaller. And if you're even, even's good. It sucks because you're not, you may be dwindling your account. Hopefully you have some savings, but even in this market, if you can come out and have that confidence, and when things get better, not be gun shy, that's a huge win, because a lot of people will come out of this scarred and scared. And when everyone thinks that it's over and these setups aren't going to work again, that's when they start working again.
Yeah, it's so funny how that happens. And real quick, Alex, before we start to wrap this up, because I know I got a little bit more time with you, I wanted to ask you one thing, because you mentioned it, and that was journaling. I just want you to, if you can, let us know a little bit about, because you said you do it a little different. So what do you mean by you do a little different? Could you explain that?
So I have I think what's it called? OneNote pad that I have is kind of like Evernote. So every day I just write in it. And so every single day I have a template that I go into. I say, what did I do well? What could I have done better? And just some notes. And then I'll have notes about the market. And I find so much, kind of going back to when will I size up? When do I know things are getting better? It's when my notes start telling me that, like, hey man, okay, everything's working again. I shouldn't have sold so soon. I should have held longer. I should have been more aggressive. If I start saying that over and over and over again, then I go for something and I change. Or if I keep seeing my notes, dude, you didn't stop out fast enough. You took another loss. You should have stopped that faster. Well, then you're basically giving yourself that feedback that you're seeing. And then same with, screenshots, where I'm going back and taking screenshots in my journal, throwing them in there. Here's what worked best in 2020. And just that way you can go back and reference real quick and just kind of look through what are the similarities that you saw, put every indicator on there, make it look like one of those stupid things that you're like, I can't even see what this is, but you're going to start finding some similarities and seeing like, okay, I keep seeing this thing over and over again, and it's just reinforcing the ideas. So I'm big on journaling and going back, and it's still fun to go back and look at like some of my notes from 2014 or 2016 when I was having a rough patch and how I got out of rough patches. And it's just really good. And or what do I wish I did better in 2019? I'll go read it again. Like, oh, I can't wait to have that opportunity again to do something like that. But yeah, there's no better way to learn, in my opinion.
Yeah, man. Thank you for sharing that. I think the way you reviewed your journal, or how you're writing down everything and explaining what you're thinking about and how it can help you figure out if you should put the pedal to the metal or take a step back and so forth. is really eye-opening, I'm sure, for a lot of traders who are listening to this. So thank you for sharing that, man. And is there anything you like to let people know, whether it's to find you on Twitter or anything you would like to end the show on with? Maybe
Yeah, I
anything
mean,
at all?
I'm pretty quiet now. I like kind of being in the backdrop, so
Yeah.
I don't tweet much anymore. I do have it on there. Maybe I'll no, I probably won't ever get active on it again. But no, I would just say, I guess if we're gonna just talk about journaling, going into that, go back and if you're having a tough time, freaking write it out. Why are you having a tough time? What's going on? What's different? What was when you were doing well? Make sure you just write it all out, so that way you can go back and look at it. And again, you can't work. It's not all. This game isn't about working harder to get results. Sometimes you can work as hard as you want, and if it's not there for you, you can't be mad. You just got to understand that this is a cycle. This is, things happen over and over again, and we'll have good times again. And this may be your time to shine right now in the choppy market. So just, this isn't an easy game. And if you thought it was from last year, hate to break it to you, there's some work to be done, but it's worth it.
Hey, well, look, Alex, I appreciate you so much for being here today again, my man. And thank you again, as always. Hopefully I'll see you again in the future, brother.
Later, brother.